Welcome to the Just Blog Baby podcast for this December 4th. I am your host, Chase Ruttig, and with me is my co-host, as always, Rory Anderson. We're here to discuss the Battle of the Bay. The Oakland Raiders take on the San Francisco 49ers at the Coliseum on Sunday, and this is also the return of the Just Blog Baby podcast. We've been off for a little bit, and our co-host, Rory Anderson, kind of explained why he's been gone for the last couple of weeks with a new job, and we're excited to be back right now today, aren't we, Rory?
Yeah, we're pumped, man. And exactly, I got a new job, had to move towns, so we moved about 90 minutes away or so. So it's been kind of a righteous pain in the butt trying to get set back up. But things are good now. I'm on a system, and yeah, I mean, even got a couple weeks in a row where I've actually been able to put out a column. So that's progress. So yeah, but I mean, it's a pity we had to come back after a 52-0 drubbing, and not after the nice little win against the Chiefs. But it is what it is. You take what you can get.
Yeah, we're not really going to focus too much on that game this hour. We're going to be doing about the Raiders game because there's so many storylines involving the Raiders-49ers game that are so interesting. But just talk about the Rams game quickly. They just didn't want to play football on Sunday in St. Louis. That was just a pathetic showing. That was probably the worst showing in the entire NFL season of any team. The Oakland Raiders went into St. Louis, and you could just see it. No one really wanted – the offensive line didn't want blocked for Derek Carr. The defense didn't really want to tackle anyone. You could see that the whole game. And you could kind of see that this is going to be an Oakland Raiders team that may just pick and choose when their efforts are going to be given, because right now, clearly, they're not giving effort in games they don't care about. And they just really didn't want to be in St. Louis. And that's not excusing their terrible performance. It was a terrible performance, but it just makes it even worse when you see that lack of effort on a team, because a lot of these guys aren't even going to be in Oakland next season. So you probably want to see some guys give some type of effort, because to be completely honest, when you see guys on defense just completely sandbagging it, it's kind of disheartening. And a few of the players that will be back next season had good games. I would say DJ Hayden tried pretty hard to make some big plays in that game. Justin Tuck had a very good game in that game, and it was you could see he was visibly annoyed to be on the field. And let's talk about that 52-0 drubbing. Pulling Derek Carr was probably the right decision. Really, when the offensive line isn't going to block against that St. Louis Rams defense, there's no point having him in the game. And you kind of see that, really, with 4 games left, all of the Raiders games besides the Bills game, which will be the home finale, and you're going to assume they're going to try in that game, these last 4 games are all the type of games you expect the Oakland Raiders to kind of give a damn about. So hopefully we don't see that again this season, because they just did not put an effort onto the football field on Sunday in St. Louis.
Yeah, the other part of that, too, it's like everything we talk about, with all the things they do poorly, we talk about, they always play off coverage, they never come up, they never press man. So what do the Rams do? They do nothing but throw screenplays all day long. And it just ate them up, And every time Sean Hill went to go actually drop back and throw a ball beyond 5 yards, it came out looking like a dead duck. So that was the annoying part. And there was even opportunities early in the game. Brown had one where he just fell on his face instead of getting an interception. So, I don't know, it was just a real frustrating game. It's like everything bad that the Raiders do just kind of came back and bit them in the butt in one game really, really bad. And it just looked pathetically ugly. But, they're talking a big game this week, so maybe they'll come out and be a little more spirited for the Niners. I hope so, because that could just be – I just don't want to have to deal with it with my friends, personally, to be perfectly honest. I don't need my friends, if they win by like 35 points, just having to hear it over and over again. Oh, it's going to be excruciating.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing at stake if you live in the Bay Area. I try to be fairly objective when it comes to these type of things, but I'm freezing here. Hey, Rory, am I good? Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yeah,
actually, I think your face froze, but I can hear you.
Yeah, my face has frozen, so we're just gonna go with your side for the odd visual right now, because my screen is just not really doing anything. But hey, whatever. Anyways, going with this, I would say this is a game that is going to be it's going to be a football game where the Oakland Raiders really need to put together a good effort if they're going to stay in the game. They're expected to lose. I would say that they're probably going to lose this football game. The Niners need to win. And it's a game where coming off a 10-day rest against the Seahawks, facing the Raiders team that really can't really stop a lot of the things that the Niners like to do. You know, the Niners are going to be able to stop the run. The Niners are on offense. It's a team with Frank Gore and Carlos Hyde. They can run the ball whenever they want. Colin Kaepernick is a dual-threat quarterback, and he can get to the edges. So it's just hard for me to see that the Raiders are going to be able to just do the type of things that would require them to get a win, because when we saw the Kansas City Chiefs game, the Chiefs are a team that the Raiders match up against because the Chiefs, while having Jamal Charles in the screen game, Alex Smith can't really throw the ball downfield that well. And Colin Kaepernick, yeah, there's some criticisms of his play, but he can get the ball downfield, and he's got guys like Anquan Boldin, Michael Crabtree, even Stevie Johnson. It's just a matchup nightmare for the Oakland Raiders once again, because this is just a bad football team playing a team that is playing for their entire lives. So right now, I just don't know what's going to happen, but I can't call an Oakland Raiders win, but you just have to hope they put a better effort than they did against St. Louis.
Yeah, it's tough to say that they would win the game, but I mean, they're going to get. I would never trust Colin Kaepernick ever with anything. He's the kind of quarterback that drives me absolutely crazy. And the guy never goes through his progressions properly anyways. So, I mean, if they could force the ball to get into Colin Kaepernick's hands, and you force him to really have to be the one to make the game go, and assuming you could keep him relatively controlled in the pocket, I think they could be successful. But if they're going to, they start letting Gore and Hyde and everyone run down their throats, it's going to be an entirely different football game. And they have to keep the score close, because if they start getting really far behind, all of a sudden you're going to see them start coming off the edges with a lot of speed and a lot of opportunities for sacks, and they've got pass rushers to do it. So, I mean, this offensive line could be able to stand up and do the job just fine as long as they keep it close. But if they get behind by 10 or 17 points, especially in the second half, it's going to be everyone putting their ears back and just coming at them, way too fast, and I don't think they'll be able to stop them. So, that's their best chance. Keep it within 3 to 7 points the whole game. Maybe have a shot at the end of the game to try to win it or tie it. And, if that something like that happens, everyone's going to be pretty excited. So, as long as it's not like a disgusting blowout, most people aren't going to worry about it too bad.
Yeah, it's just, for me, I just don't see a game that will be giving the Oakland Raiders that chance to win. It's just tough for me. I can't predict the Oakland Raiders are going to win this football game. It's the unfortunate reality of the situation for the franchise. They're just not very good. I would say that Chiefs win was nice. We're all going to bask in the glory of the fact that they beat the Chiefs. It was a good game for them. I will give them credit. Hey, you beat Kansas City. That's nice. It was your first win of the season. It was on prime time. But it's really a Tankapalooza in Oakland. They're just not a team that really are playing for anything other than pride. So this is a game where it's going to be a violent football game and the Oakland Raiders can stay in it. But I just can't call a win. I can't call a win with this team. And I think the storylines are going to be what most people focus on with Jim Harbaugh and all of the coaching drama that's going into the game. I think that's going to be the main thing rather than the play on the field, because right now the Oakland Raiders have nothing to play for other than pride. And this is a game, like I've said, yeah, they're going to play hard. But when it's playing hard, it amounted in much other than that win against Kansas City. They've played hard against a lot of good football teams and came up just short. And that's why they're a football team that have some value at home when they're over a touchdown underdogs and gambling-wise. But in winning football games, it's just something that you just can't expect from a team that wants to lose. I think this team truly does want to lose most of their football games. It's nice to think that they're like, we're going to play hard every single down. If they're not playing hard every single down, they wanted to lose against the St. Louis Rams. There was players who were doing liability tackles where they were making career decisions and not tackling Trey Mason. That is just not going to get you football wins. Like, you go out onto that turf and you don't try to tackle anybody, you're going to lose 52-0. You go onto that field and you don't try blocking Chris Long and Aaron Donald, you're not going to get anything on offense. So, yeah, they're probably going to do a little bit better this week, but they just don't have the pieces to win football games. We've talked about this all season. It's depressing to talk about. and you might not like to hear that as an Oakland Raiders fan, but if you think this team is going to go out and go back to that game against the Kansas City Chiefs just because they're playing the Niners and just because it's Sunday, like, a lot of people are just going to get back to being super negative on Sunday once again, I think, because that's just really all that's been left to be said and analyzed about this team is they're just not good enough. And the focus is going to be on what's going to happen in 2015, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think you think there's a better chance for the Raiders in this game than I do. But that's also because you're the bigger fan in the situation. You're the fan, and you really need them to play good because they're playing San Francisco.
Yeah, I think they got a chance. I mean, I would never say they don't have a chance. It's because San Francisco has a tendency to screw itself up pretty well. I mean, Colin Kaepernick can really make himself look bad at times, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you can kind of pigeonhole them to rely on Colin Kaepernick throwing the football, and if you could get them, if you can force a couple turnovers, that's the big thing. If they can figure out a way to win the turnover battle, and maybe they make a big play on defense, something like that. But that's what it's going to take. It's not going to be something where I don't think they're going to go out and just out and out beat them unless somehow they figure out a way to make the offense work and they put up a really good amount of points, which would just be weird. I don't think it's going to happen unless they win the turnover battle. That's what it's going to come down to. And they can. I mean, you could do that against a team like the Niners. Colin Kaepernick will screw up. He will make mistakes. He's going to give you an opportunity for an interception or two. He may fumble the football. So, this is a guy that might give you an opportunity to make something happen, but they have to take advantage of it. How many times have we seen the Raiders drop an interception or, have an opportunity at a fumble and not get it? Early on that that St. Louis game, that's precisely what happened. They had an opportunity to fumble, didn't get it. Immediately, St. Louis turns around, scores a touchdown. So, that's just, it is what it is. So they just have to capitalize on their opportunities. If they do, maybe they win. But I'm not going to hold my breath. I'd just like for them to keep it close, to be perfectly honest. If they keep it close, I'm a happy camper. I don't really care. Give me the first overall pick at this point.
We'll talk a little bit about that in a second as well. I'm focused on a lot of storylines, like I said. I know. It's really interesting with the San Francisco 49ers just watching everything go to hell in a handbasket. Like, did you see Colin Kaepernick's interview yesterday? 55 words to 29 questions.
Talking about how funny it was. I heard a lot of people chatting on Twitter about it, but I never got a chance to see it. So.
Oh man, it was a locker room interview. It would have been funnier if he was behind the podium. Every question, they were asking him the softest questions too. So people are defending him for only answering 55 words on 29 questions. But they're asking, have you they're like, oh, so did you work out with the Raiders in the draft, or have you ever been to the Coliseum? And then they're even asking him elaborate follow-up questions about punt, pass, and kick, and he's giving them 2 words. He's being a complete dick. It was actually quite I understand if you don't give a crap about the media. That's fair enough. I could completely understand. So some people will never change. But you're a quarterback in the National Football League. Derek Carr says God more than 55 times in 29 questions. He will put in 55 mentions of the Lord if you give him 29 questions. Colin Kaepernick is wearing his beanie, just looking all pissed off, and just being so they're oh, so who, did you talk to Al Davis? He's Hugh. Just Hugh. You can't even say Hugh Jackson. Can't even say full names at this point. I understand, hey, you probably don't want to talk about the fact that Richard Sherman made you look like a complete bitch. That's cool. But, I've interviewed, Pee-wee hockey players who can give more words than that, and these kids are scared as hell that someone has a microphone under their face. You're a National Football League quarterback. It just annoys me. People always praise Bill Belichick for doing that. I'm oh, so it's cool to just act like a complete asshole. That's the cool thing to do, is just to act like an asshole. You cannot give information or fuel to a fire by also answering some questions. The softball questions he didn't answer, you can tell that Colin Kaepernick is it's got to him. The Niners have just been completely broken down by the terrible football. And the Seattle Seahawks just own them. Completely own them. So you can worry. I worry about that kind of bounce-back game scenario. Like I said, that 10 days rest gives them a lot of chance. And if this game is close, the Raiders do have a chance because number one thing with the San Francisco 49ers is they're a team that's really clutching for straws right now. They're really they need to have a good game. They not only need to have a good game, but they need luck because the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys can potentially win out. And they'll miss the playoffs even if they win every game. So right now for the San Francisco 49ers, the most important thing for the Oakland Raiders is to get a quick start and then secondarily do what they've done to Alex Smith, Russell Wilson, and Peyton Manning early in football games this season and really frustrate them. And on the opposite end, they can't really make much mistakes. The Oakland Raiders, as we know, have to play perfect football to win games. They've played inspired football and stayed in games, but the only time they played as close to as perfect of a game as possible was against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they needed a prayer of a fourth quarter drive by Derek Carr. You're not going to get Marcel Reese running down the football field against San Francisco 49ers defense. They have to play that perfect football game. They need to score on offense and then get so many stops on defense, and that's why I can never predict wins to the Oakland Raiders. But like I said, I think the quick start with the way some of the Niners players have been acting and just how Jim Harbaugh appears to be on the way out, there's so much dysfunction in San Francisco that quick start is the most important thing for the team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree. And because, we speak of the Chiefs game, they almost blew the Chiefs game. I mean, there was that part in the third quarter where it was like they started going Raiders on us. That kind of middle third, beginning of the fourth quarter, we're all kind of going, oh, great, they just blew it. And then, they come back with that great drive. So, I mean, we'll see what they do. It's going to be, like I said, just keep it close. It's going to be an interesting game. I even got a question when I did, because I did a Q&A with the column this week, and somebody asked me, we only have one tight end. Does Reggie McKenzie not have a plan B or plan C? And I was thinking about that. And the thing about it, okay, well, Leonard, he's hurt, but, we'll see if he comes back this week. I haven't heard official. Is he officially ruled out? I haven't heard. I thought they were going to see what he's going to do tomorrow. Besides the point. Even if he's out and you're down to one tight end, okay, fine, you can put Reese there. But the other thing about it is it gives you the opportunity to use a lot of three wide receiver stuff. And it's been something I've been saying forever, to do 3 wide receiver things, try to run the football from it. The only problem is I know Greg Olsen's not going to run anything that actually would be complex enough to confuse the defense. So I'm not sure how much it's going to help. But we may be able. That might be something we do see a lot more 3 wide receiver sets, maybe a little bit more spreads, kind of stuff. And we'll also see how much they use Murray. That's going to be the big question too. How much they're going to use that guy. But I mean, it's going to be it'll be an interesting football game. But I do want to see how well the older guys step up. I know Charles said he could play till he's 40. I mean, are the Raiders going to keep giving him 1-year deals till he's 40? I'm not sure about that. I mean, they could, but are they going to start him every week? I don't know. At some point, you want to get a young guy in there. I don't think Tuck might be around next year, but, is Smith going to be around next year? Probably not. So maybe he might do some things. Maybe we'll see something from him. I don't know. But, it is what it is. So we'll end up seeing what happens, but I'm hoping we see something different. That's the thing. That's the gist of what I'm going to say. I want to see them do something that's a little outside the box. Like, give me something else, There was, at the beginning of that Kansas City Chiefs game, we saw them start doing a couple crossing routes here and there. They were successful doing it. Didn't see it at all after that, but we saw it a couple times. I mean, the late touchdown was a double move on a post out of the slot. Hadn't seen it all season. So, I mean, are we going to start seeing maybe some consistent changing up on the offense? I doubt it, but that's going to get Derek Carr killed if they don't do something different. So it's just too easy to stop at this point.
Yeah. When it comes to Latavius Murray, this is my new thing. We've got just too many people expecting the Oakland Raiders to give Latavius Murray 70 touches. It's realistic to say you're not going to make him your workhorse back. He's never played a full football game ever in the NFL. He just hasn't. I have serious doubts Latavius Murray can play and take 20 touches. He's just not going to do that. It's just not going to happen. He's missed an entire season already. And while his injury may not have been extremely serious, it's still a IR stint. He's done an IR stint. He played a lot of snaps against Kansas City in the first quarter and a half. He goes out with a concussion. Yeah, it was a dirty hit. But they're going to give him hits like that. Like, that's a hit he's going to take. Running down the middle he's going to take those type of hits. He's not the type of runner who's going to be able to DeMarco Murray and just outpower every defender. Like, he's not a guy who's built to take 20 carries. No one in the NFL takes 20 carries anymore. Like, that is a thing of the past. So I think everyone needs to chill out. Like, Tony Sperano is doing a lot of disservice to himself, saying he's not going to be the workhorse, not going to be a feature back. Like, I can understand. If you read that and you hear that on Sirius XM NFL radio yesterday, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, that's kind of shitty. Latavius Murray is clearly better in the small sample size than the rest of the running backs. But this team has made a commitment to Darren McFadden all season. Like Darren McFadden's one of the longest-serving Oakland Raiders. Even if you're going to reduce his touches, you're going to tell everyone he's your first running back because that's what he's earned. He's earned the right. He's stayed healthy all season. I understand you got those fans out there who just don't like Darren McFadden and think Latavius Murray's the answer. But once again, a common theme I try to bring up, just because everyone else isn't good does not mean Latavius Murray is great. That is an association analysis that just does not work for me. I think Latavius Murray has the potential to be good. He's showing that in his last 2 games on the football field. You can't deny that. I do not personally think he's well-rounded enough to play every single snap because he isn't. That's why he didn't play a lot at the start of the season. We're talking about a guy who came from the University of Central Florida. Well-coached team with George O'Leary. They're a well-coached team, but they're not an NFL offense, and he's pass blocking against American. Like, back then it was Conference USA. So you're blocking Conference USA blitzing schemes. Number one, that is completely different than the National Football League. Number two, you go hurt for an entire season. That they're going to start working you in after that. There's just reasons why he's only getting worked in now when they're starting to evaluate young players. And, well, yeah, in hindsight, okay, Dennis Allen, Tony Sperano, and Greg Olson are all those guys are pretty much out the door anyway. So you're getting what you want and then being punished for not playing Latavius Murray. And he's going to get a lot of touches over the next 4 games. So why are you so outraged? I just don't see it. Like, they're going to get what they want in seeing Latavius Murray. But just because they don't put the label and just because they're not going to give him 20 snaps when he's never played 4 quarters of NFL football getting snaps on a consistent basis doesn't really make a difference. Like, it just doesn't to me. I like Latavius Murray as a prospect right now. He's showing flashes. And it's hard to deny the fact that when the Raiders won their only game of the season, they wouldn't have won that game without his 2 touchdowns. That's just a simple fact. You can never argue that. So he's going to get his snaps. They're going to get to see something. They still need to add a running back regardless of how good Latavius Murray does. And this is just, once again, Darren McFadden, Maurice Jones-Drew are terrible, so people think Latavius Murray is great. This is a classic Oakland Raiders fishbowl where people are going to think, hey, Latavius Murray is great because he's the best thing we've got, when you got to remember at certain times people have thought soon-to-be cut Denarius Moore was a great receiver because he was the best thing the Raiders had. Like, you're going to need to want to draft one of the many running backs in the draft or take a stab at another free agent maybe, or keep Darren McFadden. I would like Latavius Murray, Darren McFadden, and a good rookie. We've got guys like Duke Johnson, Todd Gurley, Amir Abdullah, even David Cobb, Melvin Gordon. There's 5 guys right on that list that they can grab the guy in the 3rd round who's there and make a commitment to your running game. But you just can't sell me on the fact that if Latavius Murray does good in the next 4 games, that means the Oakland Raiders don't need to get a guy, and that's why they need to evaluate him. Because at the end of the day, no matter how good Latavius Murray plays, the Oakland Raiders still need to get better at the running back position.
Yeah, I think Latavius is going to get some of the I think he's going to get some similar treatment that cat down in Arizona's got from last year. What's his name? Why did I just forget his name all of a sudden? Who's running back in Arizona?
Andre Ellington.
Andre Ellington. And remember how he was the bee's knees for a while there because he had a few really big games? Coming this year, what's he running, like 3.3 yards a carry or something like that? So he's not even having a great season himself. And I think Latavius is kind of getting himself to that point where Okay, he might have a couple big games, and I can totally see him coming into next year. They decide, oh yeah, so coming off, the Raider fans want him to touch the ball 25 times a game, and then he's just average. I think Latavius is going to be fine in a committee role. I think he's, whatever. I mean, if they really happen to hit a home run with him and he ends up being a franchise, my hands in there, franchise running back, then so be it. Cool. You got one in the 6th round. Woo! I don't think you run football teams that way anymore. I don't think football teams need franchise running backs. What they need are effective running games that are done that work well because you have a passing game that is a legitimate threat. I've said that 1,000 times. The reason the running game, you could run the ball fine with Darren McFadden, okay, if you weren't having 8 and 9 man boxes. He doesn't make anybody miss. That's fine. He could still pick you up 4 or 5 yards of carry if you had 6 people in the box. It's just a numbers game. But the problem is the passing game is so inefficient, it's so ineffective at times, and it's so easy to stop because there's never a crossing route. There's never any double moves. There's no post from the slot. There's nothing like that. And because of that, it's easy. You just put 2 men deep. You play man straight across the whole way, and you press. And because they're only doing vertical routes, it's super easy to stop. And that's the Raiders' problem. And because the passing game is so ineffective and so inefficient, when it's a running down, you just put 9 men in the box and tell him when to key off on the running back. There you go. It's that easy. Oh, yeah, fine. Latavius Murray had a couple good runs. You notice the first touchdown was him bouncing it outside and scampering, so they plugged up the entire box. Okay. The other one was a guy overran a tackle. If you see it, he over-pursues to the hole, and then by the time Latavius makes his light cutback, he's gone. It's the exact same thing that Trey Mason did on his long run against the Raiders. It's the exact same play, essentially, when it comes to outcome. Get into the hole, it's plugged up, makes one cut, boom. Somebody over-pursues the hole, it's a touchdown. Doesn't mean he's a great running back. It means he made an okay move in a hole and got a touchdown because he's freaking fast. Good for him. That doesn't mean you're going to be the franchise guy. So, yeah, I think, you don't even need Darren McFadden next year. That guy probably wants to go into greener pastures. Let him. Maybe he wants to go over there to New England or something to be a role guy or New Orleans. Let him go. It's not a big deal. But you're going to have, you're going to have Latavius. You'll have Atkinson, who's a guy that you could use in the passing game. And then you're going to look, there's half a dozen guys in the 3rd to 4th round of this draft that are quality running backs. You mentioned Abdullah. He's one. I like him a lot. I love the cat from Boise State. There's another name. There's guys that produce that are good running backs. Get 2 of them. Get a guy in the 3rd, get a guy in the 4th. Who cares? It's fine. You got all the money you want for free agents, load up in other positions, and then focus on the offense come the draft. Cool. Whatever, Don't worry about it. And running back's the least of the worries. Running back is whatever. Teams all the time get running backs in middle rounds or late rounds and do just fine. Look at Minnesota, Jared McKinnon and Matt Asiata. Who are they? They're nobodies. Jared McKinnon was a quarterback at Georgia Southern last year. So let's not get all uppity-huppity about this whole thing. They can make the running game work if they have a better, more, dare I say, creative offensive coordinator that can actually get this thing going. So I'm really not worried about it. Running back is the last thing on my mind at this point. It's it always will be. So whatever. I know people are going to lose their poop about it, and they really want Latavius to start, but save him. What's the point? What's the point in having that guy go out and run the ball 25 times a game for the next 4 or 5 games, and then risk him to having an injury that screws up the beginning of next season? What's the point? Give him the ball 10, 15 times, call it a day. Cool. Good. Yeah.
I just really don't care too much about getting Latavius Murray. It's just Raider fans being Raider fans and football fans being football fans. Like, there's just casual football fans who are going to just be guys who are going to be like, that guy's good. You just do not understand the game planning and just the amount of it's hits. It's just math. Football math does not dictate you're going to give 80 touches to Latavius Murray in the final month of the season. 80 touches to a guy who's only, I would put the number, like a lot of people have throwing out 10 to 15 touches. That's fair. I find that to be fair. That's a fair amount of touches.
I'd say it's perfect. Perfect.
So
give him 11 runs, 4 catches, something like that. Cool. Maybe he puts up 100 all-purpose yards between the two. Good.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Okay.
People want something to cheer about. That's the tough part. They want somebody to root for because it's hard. I mean, there's not a whole lot of bright spots, but the thing is, I think when you boil it down, you have what is a very young team that is struggling through, but you've got a lot of upside with a lot of guys, and whether it's Derek Carr or I want to see one of these other wide receivers step up. They got a ton of youth in this wide receiver core. Kembrell Tompkins, there's Rob Street just coming back this week. So, maybe we'll see some of them step up some more. Maybe we'll see another flash from Michael Rivera. I just want to keep seeing the young guys do some things. I want to see Jelly take another good step. He's been a little bit quiet to me. Consistent, he's doing his job, but I'd like to see him kind of make a little bit of a step. Khalil Mack's made some real big strides the last few weeks. Been real impressed with that guy. DJ Hayden's playing well. Menelik Watson, he's doing okay. He struggles at times. He's going to struggle with some things. What?
He's going to be out. Menelik Watson hasn't practiced all week, so I highly doubt he's going to play.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how he is. We'll see how he is going into next week. But yeah, so we'll have Gabe Jackson will be back. So then you'll have Barnes hop back over to right tackle. But even Gabe Jackson before he got hurt was doing fine. But yeah, I'm expecting guys to struggle with guys to do well at times. But that's what I'm focused on. I'm just focused on seeing the young guys play. At this point, that's all you really got. C.O. Moore's had a great couple of games, even though sometimes he does some stupid stuff. And that's a good thing to see too. I think I'd like to see Jonathan Dowling a little bit, but I think he's hurt too.
I don't think we're going to see Jonathan Dowling this year. I think the entire thing with Jonathan Dowling all year has kind of been he's going to be a stash in the weight room type of guy. So he's been a healthy strength.
He's basically got redshirted this year. Is essentially it.
Yeah. And Brandon Ross has stepped in. So has Larry Asante. You gotta give those two guys credit. So those guys are great.
Brandon Ross has been unreal. The difference between last year to this year with Ross is it's crazy. It's a significant difference. Like I do legitimately feel bad for the guy because he caught so much crap when he got cut from Oakland.
He was so bad. He was so bad, Rory. He was second winner.
But to come back and play pretty decently like he has, that takes balls, And so I'm happy with the guy, I think he's played well, especially covering the slot. I'm surprised he played in the slot that well, especially in man coverage. I wouldn't have guessed it. So
he's making the most of his opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you have the right philosophy. It's just watching the young guys and watching individual players because the Oakland Raiders team is just going to be so much drastically different next year. So these next 4 games, if you're a fan, you're really just hoping to see something to cheer for. And really, for the Oakland Raiders, the problem is winning puts them in just a bad position. I don't think they should win another game this year. That's just me. They shouldn't win another game this year. I'm sorry. Winning another game this year.
Lose. They legitimately need to lose. It puts them in the best option. Either you get the first overall pick and you have a gluttony of guys to choose from, depending on what you want, whether it's an inline defensive lineman, an edge rusher like Gregory. So you got Williams on a D-line, kind of Richard Seymour type, Gregory, who's kind of a Khalil Mack type, and then you kind of have your option.
I'm off him.
And then, off him?
I'm off him. I'm not a huge Gregory guy. I'd rather just Leonard Williams if you're going to get – because Oakland Raiders aren't bad on the edge right now. I mean, you can get a guy on the edge in free agency or later in the draft. I mean, you've got Justin Tuck, C.O. Moore, and Khalil Mack. They really need an interior guy. It's hard. I think the hopeful option – but the problem is, though, I think a lot of GMs in the league think the Oakland Raiders aren't going to draft Marcus Mariota. So – you might not get the Godfather deal for Marcus Mariota unless a team that is out of second or third is going to offer. If a team between 4 and 15 are going to offer, but you still want to stay in the top 5. This is my problem with the Oakland Raiders. I mean, you can go receiver and get out of the top 5 because Kevin White, Devante Parker type of guys. are going to be out there, or even secondary guys. But, I mean, if you're going to get a defensive player, I think we went with Khalil Mack. Staying in the top 5 is important for the Raiders. But right now, I think the hope is the Godfather deal for Marcus Mariota is staying and getting Leonard Williams, Randy Gregory. I think the Raiders need as much elite talent as possible. We had this debate last year. But the main point is just lose. You just have to lose. And I don't want people being like, oh, tanking is in football. Guess what? What is better, 2-14 and you getting to cheer a little bit on Sunday, or 1-15 and getting to pick first in the spring? I'll tell you, 1-15. Like, the long-term picture gets lost so often in football because it's such a short season and it's such an overreactionary sport. Twitter has ruined football. Like, come on, like every single Sunday, someone's gotta pay for bad play. Something's gotta give. La-di-da-di-da. We know the whole song and dance every single day of our lives. I think when we're thinking long-term picture, which is what the Oakland Raiders are clearly doing, they just need to be the team that holds that magic pole of first overall.
Yeah, and I'll just go through the draft order. So you think about it. At 2, you got Tampa Bay. They're not going to move anywhere because most likely they're going to sit on either Jameis or Marcus Mariota. 3, you got Tennessee. I mean, how much do they like their quarterback situation? I'm not sure. Do we know how much they like their 6th-round pick? Jacksonville's not moving on somebody. Jets, maybe. So you think John Idzik's going to mortgage the future, mortgage the house to try to get somebody up there? I doubt it. It's not a very Idzik-y move. Redskins. Then what? The Giants. The Giants they're not going to make a move up. Carolina's not. Minnesota's not. New Orleans isn't. Chicago's not. St. Louis, maybe. So now you're talking 12. And then realistically, your next team may be Houston, but then after that, you're looking at maybe the Eagles. And then so how far are you willing to drop? I mean, are you going to get a deal from a team like the Eagles to where they're going to give you just literally 4 or 5 years worth of first-round picks? I doubt it. Unless Chip Kelly really wants Mariota, 1 overall. So I think most likely you're just going to end up taking a pick there at 1. And to be perfectly honest, I don't see how it's not Leonard Williams. I said in my column today, he reminds me of Richard Seymour. I stand by it, and I think he absolutely does. And if you think about what you could do with him and Khalil Mack, and then you look at free agency, get a guy like Jabal Sheard from Cleveland, a kind of hybrid 3-4 outside linebacker who can do some 4-3 DN stuff. One of the underrated pass rushers as far as I'm concerned. Cool, you grab a guy like him, get a couple D linemen like a Dan Williams type, something like that. You're going to put yourself in a good spot. Grab a safety in a corner. Raheem Moore is going to be out there. He can play some strong safety for you. You're going to be seeing a guy like what's his face, Chris, what's his name from Denver? They're a good corner out there in Denver. He's going to be a free agent. You don't want to pair him and DJ Hayden together and then move him into the slot for the nickel. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there. So. I think the Raiders are in a great spot for the future. I don't necessarily think they move on that first pick. I think the more when I think about it, the more unlikely it's going to happen. And I think first overall, Leonard Williams, man, that's going to be my call. It's going to be my call now unless something happens. But receiver, too. I mean, there's going to be some receiver that hits the market in free agency. One of the big 4 is going to. Whether or not it's Dez, Crabtree, Cobb, or Demaryius Thomas. One of those 4 is going to hit. Not sure which. I would say my money is probably on Randall Cobb or Dez. But I think maybe Randall Cobb is probably your best bet. And then from there, they might have a great shot at a guy like Jermaine Gresham as a tight end, who I think would be a fantastic ad for this team. A nice inline blocking tight end. Somebody you can pair with Michael Rivera. So, hey, there's going to be tons of options out there in free agency and stuff to do. So, I'm not really worried about it. The biggest deal for this team, after letting some of this youth grow, is going to be if they can bring in a coach that's going to come in with a little bit of clout. Somebody that players know who they've talked about. Doesn't matter if it's Harbaugh. It doesn't matter if it's necessarily a big name or a small name, if he's high-priced or low-priced. Just somebody that players know. So, somebody who asked me today for the Call him, what was the name that'd be really outside the box? All right, Jim Tomsula, defensive line coach from over there in San Francisco. People love that guy. He's very well respected in the NFL community, in the NFL a long time. It would be a kind of Zimmer kind of head coach to pick out. Somebody who's been doing it, grinding for a long time, and kind of deserves that shot. But people know who he is. So players are going to know if you make him the head coach, they know who that is. That's going to come with a little bit of swag. It's going to come with a little bit of clout. Maybe Pagano from San Diego. There's a guy that people know, who's had some success in this league. Something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be Harbaugh, though if you really think about it, that's kind of a nice situation for the Raiders if you're really talking about somebody to kind of carry a little bit of swag with them. So, that's really what it's going to come down to mostly. And I'm with you. I'd take Leonard Williams first overall, and I'd be gazing schoolgirl to take him because now you're looking at the young players you have across. You got two nice defensive linemen you like. One of them is Williams. Then you got Jelly. And then you got a couple linebackers you like. They're going to be set up to do a 3-4 or a 4-3. Doesn't matter. You got defensive backs you like that are young. That defense is really starting to come together, and I like it. It's exactly what the Raiders need. So, yeah.
Yeah. I personally, as you may know, I just think big name is going to happen. Harbaugh's tough because they're going to want picks. I don't think they're going to get anything in the first round. So,
I think I would not be surprised if Harbaugh forces his way out of there because no coach ever exists in the NFL on a one-year deal. It doesn't happen. Yeah. Every time a coach comes into a year with 1 year left, he gets re-upped or he's fired. So I could absolutely see Harbaugh if he really doesn't want to leave the Bay Area, just say, look, I'm not re-signing a deal, and I'm not letting you trade me because he controls the trade options. He has to sign off on any trade. And in that case, the Niners would just have to cut bait with him. They wouldn't have a choice. So then at that point, he can write his own ticket. And if, we know Mark's been adamant in the press about he's willing to pay. Everyone says he's willing to pay $30+ million to go buy out Gruden from his ESPN contract. Well, if that's the case, he'll pay $7, $8, $9 million for a year for Jim Harbaugh. Because that's what you pay for Gruden after buying out the contract. So either way, it's an easy one for him. So, yeah. And we'll see. But ultimately, I could absolutely see Harbaugh end up getting fired out of that position if he just holds his ground and doesn't doesn't re-sign and doesn't sign up on a trade. So, yeah. I mean, why would he want to be traded anyway? What's the point of that? He wants his price to go up, so he wants out. He wants people to bid. So if the Raiders, Dolphins, we all get in a bidding war for him, he's just making more money. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough situation. Michigan's in play. Well, it's something that'll be approached in January, and I think that's a big thing with the Raiders. It's just getting through December. It's another situation. It's another season where the Oakland Raiders offseason is going to be more entertaining than their season because it's just been hard. It's been a tough year. But anyway, wrapping this up, we're going to wrap it up here, Rory. Final predictions for Sunday here. What's your final prediction?
Oh, crap. I think it'll be a little bit closer than people think. I could see maybe a 24-20 kind of thing. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would take them to cover.
Yeah, me too. They're +8, so you got that touchdown cushion. So give them that. Other than that, it's really a game where I think they're going to lose. They want to lose. If they win one more game, this is the game they really want to win. I don't see them going into Kansas City and winning. I don't see them going into Denver Week 17 and winning. And if the Bills keep winning, I don't see them beating the Bills, even though Kyle Orton's terrible. So I think this is really it for the Raiders. This is the game they want to win. This is their quote-unquote Super Bowl. But right now, I see them trying to compete and eventually falling short to a Niners team that needs to win more than the Raiders would like to. So, yeah. But anyways, that's the return of the Just Block Baby podcast. You will hear us next week after the Niners game. I am Chase Ruttig. You can follow me on Twitter @Chase Ruttig or on the Just Block Baby Twitter feed because those are all my tweets. And you can see Rory at Holistic Pickle and every week in his weekly column. But other than that, you guys are on your own. Have a great Thursday and a great weekend. Take care, everybody.